Well, this is going to be fun because we're like combining winters and summers, continents around the world, across the oceans. What more drama can you put to this, Brent? Welcome to the Leaders Who Care series.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be with you today.
Good to have you. If you could, great place to start. First of all, a shout out to somebody you know. I think she's your mom who introduced us, right? So a shout out to your mom for introducing us and having this opportunity because of that introduction. And best place to start would be if you could briefly introduce yourself, not about the business and stuff you do, but like where you're from originally, where you are now, family, what maybe something you've never told anybody that you want to reveal to the world right now, something like that would be super cool. Stuff like that, and then we'll get into the rest of it.
Okay, great. I'm Brent Feinberg, grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa. When I was about 10 years old, my parents got divorced, which is quite a common occurrence for many, but I think it shapes the way we grow up in many ways. When I was about 22, I moved to Cape Town, and around the age of 26, I moved to the US for a few years. And after that, I lived in Sydney. And I'm currently in Cape Town, but going back to Sydney in at the end of January.
It's one way to keep
And
the
in
accent.
between that, spent 6 months in Israel and a couple months in Hawaii and 6 months in India. So
So you get
been
around.
around. Yeah.
And the good news is you keep your accent, right?
I think if the ship sets sail past the age of like 21, I think it sticks.
Well, I don't know. People tell me when anybody tells me, I don't know, I don't hear the Canadian anymore. I actually go home and practice my abouts and my A's and stuff like that, just to make sure I don't totally lose it. But no, amazing background, and we'll talk about it. I think it's actually, I think, a good fortune in a way that you had that ability to travel different places and meet so many different people and learn so much, and that alone is a good story for people to look at as to how we open up our minds for knowledge, for understanding other people, other cultures, etc. So fantastic. What were you like as a little kid and then a teenager before becoming supposedly a young adult?
I think as a little kid, I was always explorative. I was climbing in the tree in the yard from a young age, digging worms up from the ground to see what they're like and keeping them in buckets of soil. Um, was super high energy. I think I was a sweet kid, but I was also very naughty. I think just a bundle of energy. I often used to climb onto the roof of our house just to camp out there and um,
Well, that's a
definitely wish I had wings,
yeah. I
but
was going to
did the
say
best
that's
with the four limbs.
I was going to say that being on the roof is kind of like a freeing thing, probably, and you're closer to the sky, and it makes your imagination go wild as long as it doesn't go wild jumping off the roof.
Yeah, never jumped off.
Good move. Were you involved in did you do a lot of reading, sports, music? What did you do?
A lot of sports. I was always into. I swam a lot and
Huh.
that dabbled in everything as a young kid, dabbled in everything. And then as I got older, focused more into swimming, played a lot of tennis growing up and a little bit of golf. And I ran. My dad got me into running when I was a young kid. Um, and always ran until I had a few back surgeries. And now running is not recommended.
So did you run like Forrest Gump?
No, not across the whole country, just cross country. So 5, 10 kilometers, 18 kilometers, nothing crazy.
Oh, of course not. No big deal. So I notice all individual sports.
Yeah, interestingly enough.
Not that that means anything, but I just noticed that all individual. And had you ever thought of that?
I did. I have reflected on it a bit. I think I would have liked to have played some team sports, but I think I just went with the sports that I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
Definitely a water baby. I love to live close to the ocean and be in the water. And so swimming's great. And swimming's actually, although you're on your own and it's quiet, it's quite social. I find it's quite easy to find people to train with.
Did you ever meet an octopus?
No, no, but I'm not far from the place where my octopus teacher was filmed.
Really, that movie amazed me, and I think probably a lot of people to get to learn about octopus, and how smart they are was like fascinating. So that would be something. How did you land then at the Tomorrow Trust? I mean, before you answer, I mean, you noted, and I'm going to read this so I get it right. You noted that the experiences there inspired your expertise in guiding young minds. And you realized that nurturing both their emotional and cognitive growth, you can help them build a strong foundation for a beautiful and meaningful life. And that understanding drives your mission to uplift others and empower them to thrive. When did you begin to envision this for yourself, and tell us more about the work and how you landed with the Tomorrow
I
Trust?
think you asked what I was like as a kid, and about at the age of 10, 12 to 12 years old, when through my parents' divorce, I started studying Reiki, which is a Japanese form of energy healing. And I think the components of that stuck with me was really the meditative aspect, journeying within to experience the inner world of that we all have within our own consciousness and mind and emotions, and how to shift that and play with that to our advantage. So that really inspired. I think the one thing I've been committed to through my whole life is this aspiration of self-awareness and expanding my own consciousness. And with that comes many wonderful things like sharing love and joy, and it's a lot about service. Uh, I suppose the pathway to realizing our true nature, our true self, is either through devotion or turning our senses inward, and a variety of other practices. Um, and kind of fell off that for a little bit, like later teens, early 20s, was into the partying lifestyle, which I think was a bit of a shock to the system, in terms of I felt like I lost myself.
Yeah.
And after that, got into meditation, been meditating every day, for at least an hour to two for about 10 years now.
Yeah, I find that amazing. I like meditation too. I kind of learned, but I'm an unorthodox one, I guess. I kind of learned about visualization in sports, and that kind of felt like meditation in some ways to me, where I was just visualizing, and it freed my mind, no pun intended, for what we're going to talk about. It freed my mind, um, being able to do it, and prepared me for things. And you mentioned something that triggered something. I mean, I like yoga, but I don't do it regularly either. Excuse me. And but one time I was doing it on the beach with some people, and they told us to put our back to the ocean, bend down, and look through our legs at the ocean. And it was upside down, obviously. And it felt like our mind was, my mind was rebooting. It felt like so much stuff was going on that felt like a freeing also, or a meditation in a weird way, because it was in a different space type of thing. I don't even know what that means necessarily, but you reminded me, of it, how there's just so much power, so much opportunity, so much potential in our mind that we don't even know about, that that I've felt in different ways, that I call unorthodox, in not being an official meditation or official whatever. Any comments on that? I'd love to hear, but also tell us about the work you did at the Tomorrow Trust.
Yeah, so very interesting that you had that experience, and I've learned so much about the power of visualization, and many of the ways we can create what we want in the world is by seeing it in our mind first, by striking that inspiration, by creating some blueprint in our mind before acting out on it. So I learned many other alternative healing modalities, methods of releasing emotion. A lot of it came from my own insights from delving in and observing the mind, observing the emotions, and then from many ancient yogic techniques and things that I learned along my travels. And then it was just about offering it to the students at Tomorrow Trust. The Tomorrow Trust supported orphan and vulnerable children that were affected by HIV and AIDS from grade 1 to 12 and into universities and colleges. And it was a full system of support. So they funded their accommodation and education, as well as had a full psychosocial support team. And many of the methods that I witnessed showed that it wasn't enough to just give kids an education that didn't have parents to raise them. A lot of these kids came from child-headed households. So the organization had to give them the skills and tools to develop them holistically. And that's where I came in a great deal. We did workshops and courses and really helped these kids shape their minds to support their life journey.
Yeah, I find it amazing that just giving in my layman terms, just giving them a foundation, giving them a feeling of a foundation to move forward on, rather than the furious pace that everything going on right now. Just stop for a minute in a way, and even that I would think would make a big difference. No?
Yeah, 100%. And just like I did a lot of sessions one-on-one, just teaching individual students how to let go of stress, how to calm your mind down, how to release trauma, um, things that are holding us back from our potential. We all carry different limitations within our body and mind, and there are methods in that we can use to release those.
Yeah, I was just at an event in New York with the CEO of Trauma Free World, who does a lot of work around the world in trauma, and how we know that trauma can be in our elbow for years, or it could be wherever. And I find it fascinating when you say like release that trauma, because it just stays, right?
Yeah, it becomes somatized. And conversely, we can shape our neural pathways for things like gratitude and love. And when we're in a state of love and gratitude, we we can't experience fear and anxiety and worry. So especially if we can shape that in the youth, then their trajectory in their lives will be much better. And I think those were the things I struggled with as a teenager. Had a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. I was incredibly angry. I was just like seething with anger all the time. And I didn't want to live like that. Life, life isn't great when we carry around that much anger and fear. One of the incidences when I was about 9 years old, I was involved in a hijacking, and my father got shot in front of me.
Hmm.
Thankfully survived. And that was also a journey of overcoming fear and deciding consciously, I don't want to be afraid. And even if I wasn't living in a safe city, I wasn't going to go to bed afraid every night, and I was still going to live my life to the fullest. And I think I once saw a beautiful Nelson Mandela quote that I don't remember the quote verbatim, but it spoke about how fear traps us. And even if we freed from prison, um, if we still have fear and hatred within our hearts, then we're not really free. And we need to find love and forgiveness and these sorts of values.
Yeah, bring that to the world. There's no doubt about it. We spend so much energy on not on that and other things that it doesn't allow for any other space except more anger and more fear. And I remember there was a letter that Einstein sent that his daughter was apparently supposed to read after he passed away. And similarly, I don't know the exact quote, but it was to the point of, I've worked on so many amazing things, and the one thing I would have wanted to work way more, would have wished I worked way more on, was the one that has the most abundance of all, and that was love. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's so incredibly important, and it needs to be focused on. It's like anything, where our attention goes, that's what grows.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. Where attention goes, that's where it grows. Yeah, and well, part of one of the reasons we're doing Leaders Who Care, to show that caring, which is love, is important, and it's actually even good for business and stuff like that, to make a difference. You mentioned Nelson Mandela. I mean, your journey of education and training, aligned with your personal life experiences that you're talking about, aligned with like the amazing diverse cultures and encounters you had with influencers like Nelson Mandela, like Deepak Chopra and others. How did that impact your personal challenges and your opportunities and feeling different from the norm, as you I think said?
yeah, I think one only starts to realize the profound impact these people have on your life as you get older when you meet them when you're a child, because it's only in retrospection. And Nelson Mandela, I only met him once. My mom met him many times. She did work with him. I went to his house and he had an incredible presence. Um, he just, the room felt serene with him there. And when he focused, I just felt he was so focused on me, and his attention was like fully with me as a person, and I was just a child. And many people recount similar stories of that when he walked into a room, they felt immense love, and that he always had a giant heart for children, um, which which I think, looking back, definitely impacted me. And his messages were always of love. And he helped South Africa transition from a very dark period of time in and did it in a way with people thought there was going to be civil war. And he helped a transition with love and excitement and joy and a lot of optimism. And his legacy lives on through so many people.
Yeah, even people that have never met him. And I love what you say, the way he just quiets the room and maybe quiets the noise, and clearly saw that just, more hate, more this or more that is not going to go anywhere. Forgiveness generally helps more the person who's hating than the person who's being hated when you forgive somebody, because it eats you up, all the hate and everything. And so love can do it. It's not a fluffy, soft concept, as people have been you've been trying to sing, for years. What do you mean, or what did you think when you saying you want to feel when you said you were feeling different from the norm? Because the way I look at it, if everybody's normal, I'm not sure I want to be that anyway.
I just think, like, especially like in the society I grew up in, there was a particular path that people followed. They went to school and then university, and
Right.
most of my friends studied law and accounting and finance. And
I can relate.
my
I
path
went to
has,
be sorry to interrupt. I can relate. I went to be a CPA, and I really wanted to be a sports broadcaster, which I was doing, but I went that route instead. So I get it.
yeah. And there's a lot of sensibility in it too.
Yeah.
But my life path has just been a very different trajectory. And I think the things that I'm very passionate about and the things I love don't seem to be the norm in my age group, although it's become a lot more popular. Um,
Hmm.
a lot more people are meditating and focusing on their mental health and well-being and cold plunging and doing things just to get themselves balanced, aligned,
I agree.
understanding themselves better.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you bring it up, because it is moving to that direction that you don't necessarily have to go to college, for example, to have value in the world. You don't necessarily have to have. I had a geography teacher well ahead of his time in grade 6 that somehow, I don't even know how it came up. He was talking about letters. He was talking about people and value and letters after your name. And he knew I was a big hockey fan. So he said, Mark, for example, you could put MHC after your name. And I remember saying, well, what is MHC? It's member of a hockey club. And people will think you're like something else, you know? And grade 6, he's telling us about value of people. And I think there is an opportunity now that what we call untapped talent, a lot of people that no degrees, formerly incarcerated, veterans, refugees, don't have to go, the so-called route you're supposed to go. And so I think you were ahead of your time in your thought process of doing that.
Yeah, it would seem so. I think at the end of the day, it's about developing skills and being able to provide value, which I think a lot of people know. And I think the thing I like to focus on is what sort of presence do I bring to the world? Like Nelson Mandela, when he walked in the room, what was his presence? And I mean, I've come across some interesting people.
Do tell.
Like especially in South Africa, like we had people that were known murderers come to our house for dinner that we only found out about later, and their presence was quite different. It was a tense situation, and um, it's been a very interesting life journey, and I think for me, I feel like people are always remembered for how they make other people feel. Um,
Thank you, Maya Angelou.
yeah, 100%.
Right. I
And
Yeah.
yeah, and we exude what we are. And if we have a lot of love and peace and blissfulness within ourselves, that's what we're able to share. So we have to fill our bank, our treasury with the qualities we want. And it's just about doing that intentionally.
100%. I agree. And in a way, it's what Leaders Who Care is all about. Because if you want to have sustainability, you have to have some, like you said, sensible or economic impact as well as social impact. And people want to go work either in their own entrepreneurial venture at a company or wherever, a social profit, where they can both make money and have purpose, where they feel like they're not just in a job type of thing. And we don't even call things soft skills anymore. We call it human intelligence instead of soft skills. And love's not fluffy anymore. They want to work and be with people that really do care about them. And why would that even be so crazy? I mean, they say life's short. Often it's clear that things happen for a reason. At least in my mind, things happen for a reason. And that includes, like you're talking about, learning from your journey and then becoming the co-founder and creative director of Free the Mind Co. And you have to tell people, first of all, what the co is. I won't, I'll let you do it. But how did it come to be where you developed a full program for others to reach their potential, their confidence and emotional well-being? And clearly, of course, let's not leave out the part where you're an author and a speaker and got to tell people about freeing Freddie, the dream weaver, because that's so cool. So there's a lot packed in there, but start with how did it come to be and talk about what Free the Mind Co. is.
So Free the Mind Co. actually was birthed out of Freeing Freddy the Dreamweaver. I always envisioned myself writing a really thick, long book about self-growth and development and the personal journey. But so far, I feel like I haven't found an original idea to add. There's so many wonderful books and many masters and um, people that there's endless books to read on. And I found what inspired me was actually distilling those thoughts and bringing it to children. Just making the concepts very simple, very digestible. And the one thing we've found is actually that kids really take to these concepts pretty quickly. I think because their minds are so open and they haven't been like hardwired into particular limiting thought patterns yet, that
Mhm.
they're able to understand gratitude and going within themselves and finding peace and love. Kids are naturally that way.
We haven't screwed
Uh,
them up yet at that point.
yeah. Um, so I wrote Freeing Freddy. I was traveling, I was in Bali, and I thought I'll write a book to raise money and awareness for the Tomorrow Trust and include some of life's wisdom. And it actually started, I saw a spider in the corner of my room, and I actually used to be very afraid of spiders. And I thought, so much fear for something so small that nothing's ever happened to me. At that point, I think I was about 24 years old. I was like, this fear is irrational. I was like, most of the time, fear is irrational. So I was like, okay, I'll write a kid's book about fear being irrational, how to let go of fear. And it was all around a spider. So it was about the web of fear that we get stuck in. And what happens if we let go of that web of fear? We can create a new web, the web of our dreams. So Freddy goes on this journey in a magical rainforest, guided by this sage, Mr. Cotton, who teaches him how to grow from challenges, to keep dreaming, to share his dreams with others, help others achieve their dreams. And we took that story and we created a year-long curriculum, school curriculum that could be used at home also. And it breaks down the components of how to let go of fear and anxiety, how to use your imagination, what is your dream for the world, um, how to grow from challenges, and many other things like understanding our emotions, that we have unpleasant and pleasant emotions, and being giving kids the skills and tools to shift state. What do you do when you're feeling like yucky inside? Um,
I think it's brilliant for so many reasons, especially now with everything, all the focus on mental health and as one journalist put it, if you're feeling sad, it doesn't mean you're in a state of depression and you have to take medication. It just means you're feeling sad, basically. And there's so many other comments like that. We can have a whole discussion just on mental health, and maybe we should do that. But how did you come up with Freddie?
I found that Freddie was quite a universal name.
Mhm.
I've come across it in many different cultures. I wanted Freddie to represent everyone so that every kid could see themselves in him. Um, yeah, so I just found Freddie a very approachable name.
No,
And
it's Fred
yeah,
for English or Frederic for French or Spanish or whatever. It definitely works. And there was a great song, The Dreamweaver. I don't know if you tie that in at all ever, but there's a great old song called Dreamweaver. Have you ever heard of that?
no, I actually haven't. I'm
Google,
gonna, as soon as we're
Google.
done here, I'm gonna give it a Google.
It's a great iconic song called Dreamweaver. I can't remember who the artist is, but check it out. And I think they say in LA that we should we want to keep having them to want more so we can do a sequel. I think we may absolutely have to do a sequel on this to talk about free mind. And oh, by the way, explain to people what the co is at the end.
Co is company, so it's the
Is it really
collective.
company?
Yeah, the collective of people.
Oh, collective. I think that's what your mom told me. It was collective because I
Yeah.
thought originally company, but collective too. Cool. That's cool. Well, there's so much packed in here, and I'd love to do a sequel on how it relates to mental health and what you're doing with young people and whatnot. But I do want to ask you one more question. 2020 was the year of the pandemic. Um, Maybe Mother Nature is smacking us in the head, saying, "Pay attention, stuff's going on." I can remember early on in the pandemic, and where I am, there's a lot of birds that sing in the morning. And I remember telling somebody, it's really strange. It seems like they're all singing opera now and wondering where all the people are, but they're celebrating that they don't see them or something like that. It was like an amazing thing. So and one client told me in 2021, he said, Mark, the year 2020 was the year that flew by slowly. And I thought that was kind of brilliant. Can you share, now we're already at the end of 2024. With all that's gone on, what are you most grateful for and what are you most hopeful for?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question because for me personally, I feel like I'm still coming out of the COVID journey. I was struck with, my doctors think it was vaccine injury. They're calling it spike protein injury because it was either from the vaccination or from COVID itself, or combination. Damaged my heart, my brain, my nervous system. And it's taken for the better part of 2 years to get back to some sense of normalcy, of being able to go for a long walk and work a full day. Um, so um, for me, I think looking back on what I have to be grateful for is that it really forced me to turn inwards. There were months and months where I couldn't leave the house, and I just had to explore the inner workings of my mind. And I developed some interesting new tools of looking into my own subconscious and freeing like limitations within myself, childhood traumas and those sorts of things, which is something else which I can offer to people now, which is a wonderful gift. And I do sessions one-on-one with people. I call it the transformation pathway. And I'm just grateful for how much courage I've had to show. And like I'd be feeling better and then get knocked back down, and it takes an ongoing sense of courage. And I have even more empathy for anyone going through physical health challenges. It can be so taxing and trying, especially when it's over a long period of time.
Yeah, and it's not like it used to be where they'd say just snap out of it. People, sometimes you just have to be there for people and not try to fix, but just be there.
Yeah, especially when that's all you can really do.
Right, right.
Show understanding. Um, uh, I think it was the first time in my life I felt loneliness, just because I couldn't get out and socialize or play sports or do most of the things I enjoyed, just stuck at home. Um, and companies offer the cure to loneliness. So if someone's unwell and you can visit them, that's just showing you care. That goes a long way.
100%. It's an epidemic in itself right now. Loneliness as well. With all of that, what are you most hopeful for?
Oh, I am so enjoying just being able to go for a walk on the mountain and re-engage in studying, and um, just keep driving Free the Mind Co out there. We see such positive change in the children we work with, um, and the joy it brings them. So I'm really hopeful, just to be working with more kids and developing new programs.
No, that's great. Well, I'll tell you, I'm grateful for a new friend, a new international friend, which I love, and I'm grateful that you are a leader who cares, and things happen for a reason, and hopefully the reason is not putting you through all you've been through, but what's going to happen from that, what you're making happen from that. So that leaves me hopeful too, that you're going to make a big impact with other people, and you certainly have done that with me. So thanks for being on the series, and thanks for being who you are.
Oh, really such a pleasure. I'm really glad to be connected with you too, Mark. And yeah, it's great to start a virtual friendship that I hope one day turns into a coffee and a chat in person.
One day soon. Let's not do the let's do lunch and you never do lunch thing. So thanks for being on. Really appreciate it, man.
Great chatting. Thanks, Mark.